Power. The kind that sends a shiver through a room, that turns spines into ice and makes hearts falter. Real power doesn't scream. It doesn't shout. It doesn't parade itself like some desperate peacock begging for validation. Number true power whispers. It whispers through the silence of your presence, a quiet, unrelenting force that swallows the air, suffocates the weak, and makes every soul around you ache with unease. The kind of power that makes every word unnecessary, every explanation irrelevant. Because when you've built yourself into something unbreakable, when every atom in your being radiates that cold, merciless strength, there's no need to announce yourself. The very aura you exude will be enough to bend the room to your will. Imagine walking in, not saying a thing, not making a sound, just unexisting. And yet the shift is palpable. Eyes dart to you. The air crackles with tension, and suddenly the chatter dies. The laughter fades. The noise falls to a murmur. And then, silence. Heads bow. Throats tighten. Hands tremble. Because without a single syllable, without so much as a raised brow, you've already commanded a fear. Not with theatrics, not with brute force, but with the sheer weight of your presence. A presence that speaks louder than any threat, that screams louder than any violence. A presence that says everything without uttering a single word. That's the power of being, of having molded yourself into something other, something far beyond the comprehension of ordinary minds. And why? Because every time you've been knocked down, every time the world thought it had broken you, you got back up. Stronger, sharper, colder. You took every hit, every insult, every betrayal, and absorbed it. Let it soak into your bones until it hardened you into something terrifyingly resilient. Now, it's all there, boiling beneath the surface. Not visible, but felt. It's in your eyes, in your stride, in the way you breathe. A living testament to the pain you endured, to the transformation that pain inflicted. You became something that no words can encapsulate, something that doesn't need to speak. Because every ounce of your existence proclaims your strength. And those around you, they can sense it. Even in the silence, it's screaming. That's the art of presence, of becoming someone who walks into a room and without a sound, dominates it, who doesn't need to raise a hand or lift a finger, because the atmosphere shifts to accommodate your gravity. Those who understand power understand this. Control is subtle. Influence is invisible. It's in the way people stumble over their words around you, in the way they avert their gaze, in the way their bravado crumbles just by standing within your orbit. Because every atom in your being, every piece of you that was once shattered and reforged, is throbbing with a silent intensity. It speaks to those around you on a primal level, bypassing language, bypassing logic. It hits the core of who they are, the instincts, the fear, the awareness that they're standing in the shadow of something far more dangerous than they can grasp. And that's where real power lies. Not in noise, not in rage, but in the stillness, in the quiet. When you can make people shrink back, make their confidence wither, make their very essence recoil, all without uttering a single word. That's mastery. To be feared for being, to be seen as a threat without having to announce it. You've reached a place few dare to tread, a place where every breath, every glance, every slight movement carries the weight of your battles, your scars, your absolute refusal to be anything less than terrifyingly unstoppable. That's why they fear you, because you've become a force of nature, an embodiment of something they'll never understand, and it unnerves them to their core. You've learned to carry silence like a weapon, to wield it with the precision of a blade, to carve through egos and self-delusions without uttering a syllable. Because silence, it forces people to think, to confront the void, to imagine what lurks behind your gaze, what thoughts simmer beneath that unreadable calm. And that's the genius of it. The less you reveal, the more they're consumed by the unknown, by the dread of what you could be capable of. The human mind abhors uncertainty, and in that uncertainty, in that void you create, their imagination becomes your greatest ally. Every fear, every nightmare, every unspoken horror is projected onto you until the silence becomes deafening, and they're left squirming under the weight of their own mental torment. To master presence is to master the art of control, to become the unseen hand that twists hearts and minds without ever revealing its touch, to be the ghost in the room, the shadow that looms, the threat that everyone senses, but no one dares acknowledge. There's a type of power that transcends words, a force that emanates not from what you say, but from who you are. Silent confidence, the kind bred in solitude, carved out by disciplined nights and early mornings, is not something you can fake. It's a presence forged in darkness, in the relentless pursuit of goals, completed away from the eyes of the world. It's the strength of someone who doesn't need to boast, who doesn't crave the applause, because the real validation lies in the tangible, brutal reality of their achievements, achievements that speak for themselves, that radiate through every glance, every movement, every breath. When you've done the work, when you've bled for your craft, you don't need to announce your triumphs. The results will wrap themselves around you like a second skin. You become the embodiment of what others only talk about. While they waste their words, spilling their ambitions out into the air, you remain silent, deadly silent, because in silence there is focus. In silence, there is discipline. In silence, there is an understanding that those who talk rarely do, and those who do rarely talk. The silence is where real power cultivates itself, because it's unbroken by the need for validation, unshaken by the desire to prove anything to anyone. The world has been conditioned to value noise, to equate verbosity with strength, but it's a lie. Real strength, real mastery, it walks softly, it breathes quietly, and yet it dominates the room. Those who radiate silent confidence have something different about them, something intangible yet undeniable, an aura, a gravity. You've seen it before, felt it before. When a true master enters the room, people instinctively step back. They speak a little softer, act a little smaller, because they can feel the presence of someone who doesn't need to be loud. Because silence is unnerving. Silence creates space for doubt, for fear, for uncertainty. Silence carries with it the weight of things unseen, things accomplished without fanfare, things earned through pain and sweat in the shadows. And when you become the kind of person who achieves without a single word, your aura becomes a living testament to your journey. Imagine walking in, your presence alone shrouded in the mystery of your efforts. The very air around you hums with the unspoken, with the unknown. No one knows what you've done, what you've been through. But something about you makes them stop and look, makes them feel the pressure of your silence. Because that's what happens when goals are achieved behind closed doors. Every success, every milestone you hit, without declaring it, without sharing it with the world, builds layer upon layer of invisible armor around you. And that armor, that sense of certainty in yourself, exudes a quiet, lethal energy. It turns you into an enigma, a puzzle no one can solve, because everyone else is so loud, so desperate to fill the silence with their hollow proclamations, with their need to be seen. They crave attention like moths to a flame, and in doing so, they burn out. They scatter themselves thin, chasing validation, seeking applause for things they haven't even done yet. And in that desperation, they lose the essence of power. Power isn't chased, it's attracted. It's drawn to those who can remain still, unbothered, completely indifferent to the cacophony of voices around them. The kind of power that comes when you know, deep in your bones, that your actions have spoken louder than any words ever could. This is why silent confidence terrifies people. It's why it intimidates, because people don't know what to do with it. It can't be provoked. It can't be baited. It can't be controlled. It simply is. And that's what makes it dangerous, because the mind craves understanding. It wants to know, to define, to categorize. But when you move through the world, wrapped in the cloak of your own hard-earned mastery, never saying a word, you become an unknown, and people fear what they can't understand. The aura you build through silent accomplishments is something that repels the weak, that draws in the curious, that makes every move you make feel like a revelation. It's not the kind of power you wear on your sleeve. It's the kind that seeps through your pores, saturates the space around you, and leaves others breathless in its wake. There's a magic in that kind of presence, the magic of control, because silence doesn't just speak, it manipulates. It bends perceptions, distorts reality, creates a fog of uncertainty that forces others to second-guess themselves. Every unspoken word, every unmade declaration becomes a question hanging in the air. What have you been doing? What do you know? What are you capable of? And in that ambiguity, in that tense, charged atmosphere, you gain leverage. While the loudest voices reveal their weaknesses, exposing themselves with every boast, you, the silent one, become the center of attention. And without uttering a single word, speed is a seductive lie, a treacherous illusion that whispers of progress, when in reality, it's only chaos, disguised as motion, racing forward blindly, clawing for instant results, scrambling for quick wins. It's the behavior of a desperate mind, the unhinged sprint for validation, the frantic chase to be seen. It's a sickness, a poison that corrodes your foundation, leaving you hollow and fragile, because in the quest for speed, for that elusive thrill of immediate reward, you sacrifice the one thing that truly matters: direction. And without direction, all the speed in the world is meaningless, just a wild, erratic dash to nowhere. Imagine a ship, its engines roaring, surging across the waves at a blistering pace, but with no compass, no map, no course. Faster and faster it sails, cutting through the sea, only to find itself hopelessly lost. It's burning through its fuel, tearing itself apart, driving forward with ruthless intensity. But for what? There's no destination, no purpose, just reckless movement. And when it finally sputters out, exhausted and adrift, it's further away from where it wanted to be than when it started. Speed without direction is suicide in slow motion, a path to ruin paved by the need to reach something, anything. before others can judge your progress, rushing for the sake of validation, pushing for that fleeting sense of worth. That's the real trap. Because validation is like a drug. One hit, and you're hooked. One compliment, one nod of approval, one moment where the world acknowledges your effort, and suddenly, you crave more. You become its slave, its pawn, chasing after every scrap of recognition like a starving beast. And in that addiction, you lose sight of everything else. Direction, purpose, mastery, all sacrificed at the altar of being seen. It's a pitiful way to live, a grotesque cycle of highs and lows, where the only constant is the emptiness in between. An emptiness that grows and festers until your soul is little more than a shell. That's why real power, real transformation, comes not from racing forward, but from choosing where to go. It's the slow, deliberate process of carving out a path that's yours, of building a foundation so deep, so unshakable, that no storm, no obstacle, no judgment can shake it. The wise understand that direction is the key, because a single precise step in the right direction is worth more than 1,000 frenzied sprints in the wrong one. When every move is calculated, every action intentional, every decision aligned with your vision, then time becomes your ally. You no longer bow to its pressure. You bend it. You twist it to your will. But those blinded by the need for speed, for quick victories, will never see this. They'll wear themselves thin, burning through energy, through resources, through years in a manic rush to prove something. And in the end, when the speed catches up to them, when their recklessness sends them crashing down, they'll stare blankly at the wreckage of their own life, bewildered, wondering where it all went wrong. They were fast, they were relentless, but they were aimless. And speed without direction is a disaster waiting to happen. A train barreling down the tracks with no destination, destined only to derail. Because real mastery, real dominance, takes time. It requires patience. It demands the strength to endure in the silence, to resist the itch for instant gratification, to hold your ground when the world is rushing around you in a mad, frenzied dance. The masses want everything now: wealth, fame, validation. But those who truly understand the game know that haste is for the weak. The real giants, the true titans of any field, move slowly, strategically. Every step they take is calculated. Every pause is intentional. Every setback is planned. They're not driven by the shallow need to be seen. They're driven by something far deeper, something internal, an unyielding resolve to become. This is why instant gratification is the enemy of greatness. It's the bait that keeps you running in circles, chasing phantoms, while the true path lies hidden in plain sight. Because building something worthwhile takes time, cultivating skills that last, creating foundations that endure. It's a slow, excruciating process that requires patience. But in that patience, in that refusal to rush, lies real power. The power to endure while others burn out. The power to wait while others fumble and fall. The power to move with the precision of a predator stalking its prey, knowing exactly when to strike, exactly where to land the fatal blow. When you begin to rise from the ashes, when the dust of your old life starts to settle, and the darkness gives way to the sharp, blinding light of transformation, the ghosts of your past will emerge, not to cheer you on, not to embrace the new force you've become, but to invade, to claw their way back into your world, not out of remorse or newfound understanding, but out of a sinister desire to reclaim what they abandon. They see your ascent not as a triumph, but as an insult. It's the reflection of their own inadequacy, a cruel reminder of what they threw away. And that thought, it eats them alive, because there's nothing more infuriating, nothing more infuriatingly tragic to those who gave up on you than witnessing what you've built without them. They left you in the ruins. They walked away from the shattered pieces. But now, those broken shards have been forged into something sharp, something beautiful, and it terrifies them. Your rise is an affront to their arrogance, a slap to their pride. Because if you can succeed without them, if you can thrive in their absence, then what does that say about their own worth? It's an existential crisis, a venomous seed of self-doubt planted by the very sight of your evolution. So they'll creep back, wearing masks of false smiles, whispering deceit coated in sweet apologies, promising that they've changed. But remember, leopards don't change their spots, and serpents never forget how to bite. Those who left you in the darkness, those who turned their backs when you were at your weakest, don't return to share in your success. They return to contaminate it, to poison it from the inside, to tear down what they can't control, because the sight of you, stronger, sharper, and untamed, stabs at their fragile egos like a blade. So they'll slither back into your life, offering the hand of friendship, while the other clutches the knife behind their back, waiting for the moment you let your guard down. It's a game to them, a twisted power play. They want to tear down what they couldn't build. They want to desecrate what you painstakingly constructed with your own blood, sweat, and solitude. Because if they can break you now, after all you've achieved, after all you've endured, it will validate the lies they told themselves when they walked away. It will justify their abandonment, their cowardice. If they can reduce you to rubble again, it means you were never truly powerful. It means you were never capable of standing on your own. And that's what they need. They need you to fail, to fall, to wilt, so they can cling to their delusion that you were always meant to be lesser, always meant to remain nothing. But this time, the roles are reversed. You're no longer that broken, desperate figure they once discarded. You've built yourself into something formidable, something beyond their comprehension. The scars they left on you, they've become armor. The pain they inflicted, it's been sharpened into a weapon. And every step you take forward, every victory you claim, every piece of your life that you fortify without them, destroys them a little more. Their smiles falter, their voices crack, because they realize, slowly and painfully, that they have no power over you, that the chains they once used to keep you down have been shattered beyond repair. So watch them come crawling back, like moths to a flame, drawn by the light of your progress. But do not be deceived. Do not let your empathy betray you. Remember who left you in the darkness. Remember who rejoiced at your suffering. Keep your resolve cold and your heart colder, because they don't come back to heal. They come back to harm, to sink their claws into your newfound strength and drag you back into the abyss. Your success is a threat to them, a blade held against their fragile egos. They don't want to bask in your light. They want to extinguish it. And that's the irony. The very ones who left you when you had nothing will come scrambling back when you have everything. Their envy will be palpable, their desperation almost comical. But here's where your power lies, in refusing them, in denying them entry, in standing tall, impenetrable, and untouched, because there's no greater retribution, no more agonizing punishment than showing them just how unnecessary they always were. When you turn away in silence, when you shut the door they so arrogantly walked out of, that is the blow that crushes them, because it proves one simple, irrefutable fact. Your rise was inevitable, and their presence was never needed. Let them rage. Let them crumble. Let the weight of your absence hang over them like a noose. Because the higher you climb, the more hollow their lives become. They'll be left to stare at the ruins of the choices they made, to choke on the reality that their absence was your liberation. And every success, every milestone you achieve without them is another nail in the coffin of their delusions.